It all started when Selina began noticing strange behavior in her sleep. Well, to be more exact, she didn't notice it herself, her loved ones did. At first, it didn't happen often, so she didn't pay much attention to it. Sometimes, she would twitch in her sleep or mumble incoherent phrases. I think each of you, just like me, has probably experienced something similar, but most likely you've never witnessed what happened to her next. Her husband, as well as others who were around while she was sleeping, told her about things she had done that she couldn't remember at all. So, to prove to herself that she was really doing weird stuff in her sleep, she decided to set up a camera for the whole night, recording every second of her sleep. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow. When I first saw Selina's recordings, I thought what I was watching was really strange. But then I remembered that I personally know people who have gone through something like this. You have to understand what sleepwalking really is and what happens to a person when they sleepwalk. Let's put it this way, they're definitely not walking on the moon. But the idea that nothing bad can happen to them isn't exactly true either. Why does someone sleepwalk? In simple terms, it's because of neurotransmitters. Their main job is to block our muscles while we sleep, so that our bodies don't move around. But sometimes these neurotransmitters malfunction and don't do their job, and in that case, the brain keeps sleeping, but the body wakes up and starts doing things on autopilot. That's exactly what happened to Selina. Every night, she was doing strange things in her sleep, but by morning she couldn't remember a thing. Her brain was asleep, so it wasn't recording those moments. This went on for a long time. She kept filming it, posting the clips, and her videos got tons of views. At least until things started to get a little too serious.
No!
That's where the video ends. As for what happened to her later, I honestly don't know. Hopefully, someone stepped in and helped her out of it. So, theoretically, sleepwalking isn't dangerous. But when a person's body is moving without any conscious control, that's basically like a plane flying without a pilot. And we all know those planes rarely land safely. But what if the opposite happens? What if it's like a plane with a pilot, but no engines? Here's what I mean. As we already know, the brain usually shuts down most of the body's muscles during sleep. But not all of them. For example, it leaves the eye muscles active. That's why our eyes move around when we dream. But what if the brain wakes up before the body does? Meaning, you're conscious, but you can't move anything except your eyes. Yeah, as you've probably guessed, that's what we call sleep paralysis. In simple words, it's that state between sleeping and waking, when the two overlap. But here's the mystery. In regular dreams, sometimes we see good things, sometimes bad. So why is it that during sleep paralysis, we only ever see terrifying, horrifying creatures? Why is it never like this? I'm stuck in sleep paralysis, and instead of a demon, Santa Claus walks into my room and gives me presents. For me personally, every time it happens, it's always some kind of dark shadowy figure that looks like it wants to smother me with a pillow. There are actually 3 types of sleep paralysis. The first one is probably the least scary. That's when you feel like you're floating in weightlessness, as if you're leaving your body and flying wherever you want. People often describe it as floating up from their bed and flying through the sky. The second type is much creepier. If you've ever felt the presence of another person in your room while sleeping, That's the second type. Everyone sees this being differently, but the common detail is that whatever it is, it's always hostile. And then there's the third type, the scariest one, in my opinion. That's when the figure doesn't just stand in the corner. It climbs on top of you and tries to choke you. In other words, it makes physical contact. I've had those episodes too, just like you probably have. Some of them were so terrifying that for a long time after, I had to sleep with the lights on. It's been about 3 or 4 years since my last one, and I had almost forgotten about it. But honestly, I never thought it could happen anywhere, and in such a horrifying way. Have you ever thought about this? Why is sleep paralysis always tied to fear and terror? Why can't it ever be something good? Like imagine, you're dreaming that you're a millionaire, and it feels so real. If you woke up after that, it would motivate you to chase success in real life. That would actually be useful, but no, instead, we get monsters and shadows trying to strangle us. Something similar happened to me once on a train. I was lying on the lower bunk, people were walking around, the sun was shining, and I slowly started drifting off. It was probably the first time in my life when I was 100% sure it wasn't a dream. But I couldn't wake up. I remember lying there, trying to lift my arm, but it felt like it weighed 100 pounds. I could hear the people around me, even their conversations, but I couldn't do a single thing to show them that I wasn't asleep. I didn't even have the strength to open my mouth. It was exactly like those stories about surgeries, where the anesthesia doesn't work properly, and the person can't move or speak, but still feels everything. But luckily, I can tell you how to get out of this state. So, first, how to avoid it in the first place. I'm not your mom, but let's be real. If you're scrolling your phone right before bed, your brain is in an overactive state from taking in all that info, and that messes with your sleep. So, try falling asleep without your phone, and you'll be better off. Second, if you struggle with sleep paralysis, don't fall asleep on your back. According to stats, 9 out of 10 cases of sleep paralysis happen while lying on the back. So, just roll onto your side and you'll be fine. But if you already got stuck in it, here's what might help. Most likely, your limbs will feel impossibly heavy, like you can't move them. But you have to keep trying. Keep focusing on moving your hands or feet, even just a little. Eventually, your neurotransmitters wake up and your muscles start working again. That worked for me, but apparently, it didn't help this one guy. And honestly, I don't even know if anything could help him. As strange as it sounds, his story began simply because he missed his bus stop. It was just a regular day. He was coming home from work, sat in the back seat, scrolling through his phone, and dozed off. But when he woke up, he realized the bus was empty and his stop was 10 minutes behind. This kept happening, and it was because he wasn't sleeping at home. Not because he stayed up gaming all night, but because he literally couldn't fall asleep. He would toss and turn all night, only managing to pass out in the early morning. This condition is actually common. It's called insomnia. In short, it's when people sleep much less than normal, or sometimes can't sleep at all. But here's the thing, he didn't have that diagnosis. His problem was something else. He tried many times to fix it, going to bed earlier, changing habits, but nothing worked. So, he decided to reach out to someone for help, but not a real doctor, like most people would. Instead, he went to a friend of his, who knew a lot about sleep. He explained that at night, he always felt an overwhelming sense of danger, as if someone was trying to break into his house. Even though he logically knew that wasn't happening, he couldn't shake the feeling. His friend listened and suggested an experiment, set up a camera to record everything happening in his house at night. That way, If nothing happened, he would see it and finally relax. Mike, let's call him that, agreed, though he laughed it off a little. But the next day, he realized it wasn't funny at all. So, they set up the cameras. All Mike had to do was sleep a simple, right, not for him. The first hour, he tossed and turned, but eventually, he started dozing off. And that's when the weird stuff started. You might say, so, his friend was right. Someone really did break into the house. Well, why then did the figure only show up on the ultraviolet camera? So maybe Mike was right all along, and what he felt wasn't paranoia. You could argue it was just another case of sleep paralysis. But as far as I know, sleep paralysis makes you think something is on top of you, when really, nothing's there. Or maybe we've been wrong about it this whole time. People in the comments were divided. Some said someone, or something, really did come for Mike, but for some reason, regular cameras couldn't capture it. Others, the more reasonable ones, said Mike and his buddy probably just had a few too many drinks and filmed a cheap horror skit. If that's true, then the figure sitting on top of Mike was just his friend messing around. But in all seriousness, what's really scary is the fact that science still doesn't fully understand what sleep actually is. Think about it. What do we really know about dreams? It's honestly strange. Imagine aliens watching humans from another planet. What would they see? Living creatures walking around all day, then suddenly lying down on strange rectangular objects for 7 hours, before waking up and carrying on like nothing happened. What we do know for sure that sleep is essential. It's how our bodies recover. While we sleep, the brain organizes and processes all the information from the day, like taking our memories, turning them into books, and putting them on the shelves of our memory library. But what if it's the opposite? What if instead of shelving the books, the brain is actually taking them out? To explain what I mean, here's an experiment. At a university, students were asked to write down the most memorable events of their day on one sheet of paper. Then, on another sheet, they wrote down what they had been dreaming about recently. 65% of them had overlap, meaning what they saw in dreams matched what happened in real life. So maybe our dreams really are based on daily events. But what if it's the other way around? What if the things that happen to us during the day are actually caused by the dreams we've already had? And then comes the question, where does that information come from in the first place? This would actually support the idea that we're living in a simulation. Our dreams would just be data uploaded into us to make the game more interesting. And that would also explain déjà vu, that strange feeling that you've already experienced something before. Of course, I'd love to know the meaning of the entire universe. But let's be honest, first, we should probably just figure out what's going on with our dreams.